How many elements are better than nitrogen?
There are 0 elements better than nitrogen, Grant.
That's a guarantee. I don't know what that means, but you know what is a guarantee? If you use the link in the description when you sign up for Nitrogen Sports Poker Room, you get to play with the poker guys on Nitrogen Sports.
Yeah, we're going to have a special tournament at the end of December, super cheap, super low buy-in, and there's going to be a big guarantee on it. The only way to be a part of that, though, is to use the link in the description when you sign up.
And if you win that tournament, you want your money fast, right?
Of
You want to
course
get
you
your
do.
money. Well,
I mean-
Nitrogen is a Bitcoin-only poker site, and it moves at the speed of Bitcoin, unlike some other Bitcoin sites. 5 to 20 minutes, you got your money. Get on Nitrogen, get you some poker.
That was like the speed of Bitcoin.
We have done multiple breakdowns where ICM is a key factor. Now, if you don't know what ICM is, Google it. How about that?
Okay, but just for the newbies, it's basically the pressure that comes into play as the money jumps get big.
Right. Now, we're in a very specific ICM scenario. You're going to want to see all of this hand because when we get to the river, we outline a really weird ICM thing that's going on here, three-handed for a bunch of money in a WPT.
This hand is awesome. Okay, so like Grant said, we're at the Borgata Winter Poker Open. We're three-handed for all the change. It's
All
a
the change.
$3,500 buy-in, but there's huge money up top. It's like $900,000 for first. Everyone's already locked up, what, $300K or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, and there's the jump between third and second is an extra $200,000. And the dynamic that's important here is there's two guys, Tyler Kenny and Daniel Wyman, who are the big stacks. They both have slightly over 100 blinds.
That's a lot of blinds.
While the small blind, whose name is Daniel,
Something.
we're calling him Daniel, he has 37 blinds. So normally in this situation, the two big stacks sort of, are careful with each other because you don't want to bust before the 37 blind guy busts.
Spoiler, that's not going to be the case.
Probably it's going to be different this time.
And that is why Anantha Kushna Rao suggested it on Twitter. If you have a suggestion, you know what to do. Include a YouTube link, or else we don't like you.
I mean, I like you.
Sure you do.
It's not.
He's lying.
I'm lying. We're going to break down this hand as we go, so get ready for some analysis.
In U.S. currency. And those three trades were $30 higher than the market. It was the weirdest thing, like someone made the trades to win a bet. So we discussed it, and we just decided to cut it in half.
Okay.
And I gave him back half.
That's fair.
Yeah, and if it was the other way, we would have probably decided to go to a group of 8. We go pick 4, and he picks 4 poker players, and they decide. Just because it was so ambiguous.
Sure.
In the future, we'll pick which exchange we should use.
He just had a baby, so you have to, you got to give
That's
him
why
his
he got the buyout. And he tried to get the buyout even lower because he's having a baby. And
Yeah.
I was like, Chris. And then he final table something the next week.
So all of a sudden we have Daniel Weinman 3-betting the 5-9 offsuit here. So we have Tyler who opened the button with King-9 suited. This is a strong hand, 3-handed, and Daniel picking the 5-9 offsuit in the big blind to 3-bet.
Well, I think what he's thinking right now is that he could take control of the non-aggressive side of this. Maybe he could bubble play Tyler a little bit.
This is certainly based on game flow, not based on the strength of his hand.
Right.
Tyler putting out a call here with King-9 suited as he should, and we're going to see these two top pros go to a flop.
Now, Daniel's never doing that with ace-king. It's just standard for Tyler there to not worry about ace-king. I mean, he really hasn't been that far out of line.
It's certainly part of Daniel's range. However, I think King-9 suited is a strong enough hand where if you were folding, considering you're opening so many buttons,
right,
it becomes profitable now for Daniel to 3-bet any 2 cards. Daniel 3-bets and checks this board. Tyler now considering a bluff. All he really has is 2 overcards. He can go runner straight.
Do you think that's a strange decision not to c-bet by Daniel?
Well, I think
No,
Daniel. I think a check raise by
Do you
Daniel.
think Tyler's
might be
range
huge.
includes a lot of?
I would be check calling this all day. And in fact,
Okay.
this is a board where, remember, these players are 100 big blinds deep. This is actually a board that favors Tyler's range more than Daniel's, as Daniel probably isn't 3-betting hands like pocket 4s, pocket 5s, maybe not even pocket 8s, whereas all of these hands are in Tyler's range. So this is a board where I would, in fact, if I'm Daniel, I'm looking to check with most of my range on this board. I would probably check all over pairs and ace-king and the hand that I have.
Okay.
That card doesn't help at all. but
Finding
it
out
is
on the
another
stream I
overcard.
c-bet too much. That's good.
Everyone calls a C-bet. You got to bet the turn. That's the real spot now.
It changes if you're like 35 big blinds deep.
With your chips is usually, a weakness.
It's legitimate. It means you're actually reconsidering the bet.
No, usually I think they're doing it to make you think that to slow you down from betting when they check. He actually went back and put the bet in.
Well, here's an interesting thing. The bet size here, not relative to the pot, but the actual bet size. The fact he threw in an extra blue chip on there, that's like almost psychologically like he's trying to make it look a little more expensive, right?
Yeah.
Or just like, I'll just throw this on top too. I don't care what I bet. I have the best hand. You know.
So you would read this as weak.
And what he just did, I would read as strong.
As strong?
That extra
Okay.
chip, yeah, too. And he even went back and made the bet. If he would have checked after playing with his chips, I would have known he's got king high, and he just doesn't want me to blast.
Wow. I mean, after Daniel made like the motions and was like smiling or whatever, that looked like it was going to be a fold, didn't it?
Jonathan, are these guys just crazy? What is going on? They both started the hand with over 100 blinds. There's a 37 blind stack right there, right in between them. They're trying to lose their money. What's going on?
I mean, this is how you win and lose tournaments.
Yeah, I guess so.
This is it, right? I mean, you got a big stack. You're trying to push the other guy around. We've seen both players already basically trying to apply this ICM pressure onto each other, starting with Daniel Wyman's 3-bet with 9-5 off. Clearly not a standard play.
No, this is because he's saying there's a 37 blind stack over here, Tyler Kenny. You really want to play for all of it right now when this guy's going to bust so much more frequently than you next? Do you really want to do that right now? I'm taking your chips. There's nothing you can do about it. But then it quickly shifts. When Wyman gets showdown value on the flop, he's like, well, I guess it's check call mode now. And then Tyler Kenny doesn't flop anything. He's like, well, I guess it's ICM pressure mode now.
It's amazing, isn't it,
Yeah.
how the roles just switch based on 1-5 flopping.
Yeah.
But yeah, Daniel Wyman, once he flops a 5, really doesn't have much choice but to check call on both streets so far, flop and turn. And I got to tell you, I think Tyler Kenny is kind of obligated to bet both streets also. It puts them in this crazy situation. I guess Kenny could decide just not to go there. But I'm not surprised at all that he did.
I'm not surprised that he did. He's not obligated to bet both streets, but once he bets the flop, he's definitely obligated to bet the turn.
Agreed.
Simply because Daniel Wyman's a good player. Good players don't generally 3-bet out of the big blind and then check fold. They usually have something showdownable, although you wouldn't expect 9-5. You'd expect like ace-queen or ace-jack, something like that he's not going to fold. But this time, it's not going to work because he's got a 5, I guess. I guess that's good enough, although it shouldn't really be that different.
It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be the thing that doesn't work there. I mean, I really like Tyler Kenny's line so far, I got to tell you. He's betting the flop, and he knows, like Grant's saying, that almost always Wyman has ace high here. If Wyman had, air, he would bluff it himself.
Yeah.
And by the way, it would almost certainly work, right?
And if Wyman had an overpair, he'd probably bet anyway.
Right. And anything at all reasonable, Wyman would bet. But now Wyman has this medium strength hand at best and doesn't want to get into a huge showdown if he can avoid it, is trying to do pot control and allow for bluffs. Now, Tyler Kenny knows he can't just bet once, so if he's going to bet the flop, like Grant's saying, he kind of has to bet the turn because that's saying, do you really want to do this, buddy?
Do you really want to?
Look, because the pot is about to get huge. And as you see, when Wyman calls on the turn, they have a pot-sized bet left. Actually less. Oh my gosh, this is a train wreck.
It's getting serious. And one problem with Tyler Kenny's plan here is that Wyman is, of course, good as well.
Yes.
He knows that if Tyler Kenny's going to bluff the flop, that Tyler Kenny knows that he has to bluff the turn. The question is, does he really want to go with it? Does he really want to commit to that idea?
Yeah.
Now, another problem with Tyler Kenny's plan is that his value range narrows considerably when he bets twice.
Yes.
On the flop, I guess it could be almost any flopped pair, maybe a little stronger than that sometimes. On the turn, it's 2-pair or better that he's betting here.
I mean, maybe he could have been bluffing with a 10
Yeah.
on the flop and hit the 10 on the turn. But otherwise, you wouldn't really expect Tyler Kenny to be betting most other one-pair hands. Perhaps ace-8 exactly.
Maybe.
Something like that. He might take one more shot because it just looks like that's usually the best hand.
Maybe.
But even that would often check back for pot control because you don't want to put yourself in a bad spot where you put in, you fire this 20-blind bet on the turn and the guy shoves on you and now you just have to fold.
Yeah,
Instead
that's
of
a crappy thing.
checking back, you either bluff catching the river or he checks again on the river and you can often put a value bet in depending on the board card.
I'll tell you what, if another bet goes in, that value range is going to get a little shrinkier.
Honey, I shrunk the value range.
I thought the hand was just over then.
And Tyler doesn't look very happy, and he just touched his face, pacifying himself a little bit, His only fear is if the guy has, if Tyler has an 8, the 10 and the 3 shouldn't really play into the hands that much.
So it looks like Tyler is carving out chips not for his bet size, but rather to size up his own stack and to see how many chips he has left. Tyler has less than a pot-sized bet left. There's about 11.4 million chips in the pot. Tyler has 10.7 million chips behind, and he shoves all in.
And what do you think Nathan's doing right now?
Throwing a party in his mind. That's what I would be doing.
Yes, he's saying, how did this happen? I only have 5 million. And it always happens. It's going to be very hard for Daniel to find this call. If he does, then he saw his cards.
And the fact that Daniel is thinking about this.
Well, now, Daniel 3-bet pre-flop, so he's trying to wonder if Tyler's like just putting him on an ace-king type hand, too. But no matter what he thinks, this is just too hard of a call to make for so much right now. A minimum of a $200,000 call if he makes it.
And without seeing Tyler Kenny, you can tell he's related to Bryn by this hand.
Absolutely.
Call!
Oh my God, that's incredible.
What an unbelievable call by Daniel
That's
Wyman.
incredible.
Daniel is my new hero.
Wow.
Nice call, Daniel.
That is
Nice call.
incredible.
Well at this final table.
I feel like in every Fast and the Furious movie, there's a scene where two guys get in a car and drive directly at each other.
It's actually just one of them.
Well, whatever. I've only seen
they do it on
like
purpose. They're
half
like,
of one of them. Yeah.
It's like,
That is what just frickin' happened
Yeah.
right here. Oh my gosh.
there's a 37, Jonathan, there's 37 blind stack right here.
You know, just in case if people don't remember, there is significant money to be won and lost in this hand. Just for finishing second, you make $200,000 more. And by the way, there's a $370,000 jump up to first after that. You can't just be willy-nilly throwing chips around, or can you?
Oh, well, I guess maybe you can. Tyler Kenny thinks you can, but now he's out of the tournament, so I guess you can't.
Well,
I guess you shouldn't. Now, let's talk about his range here for a little bit.
Okay.
Before we talk about the ICM stuff, which is really cool, actually. So he doesn't have any one-pair hands anymore, right? Maybe a slow-played pocket aces.
Maybe slow played aces or kings, but that would be about it. I don't think, even if he had ace 10, which I don't know that he would bet on the flop anyway, but if somehow he had a good 10, I don't think he would shove the river just because it's not worth it. The pot's already well worth winning, and what if Wyman has a better hand somehow? You just cannot mess around.
I mean, in
here.
a situation like this, even when it seems very likely you have the best hand, like if Tyler Kenny had 4-5 for flop bottom 2 pair, he might decide to check back, even though he's likely to have the best hand, just because it's such a disaster when Wyman snap calls, right?
Exactly.
So Kenny definitely has the nuts in his range. He definitely has sets. 2 pairs are probable, but we're not 100% sure. There's enough value that it makes sense to do this, but there's other factors involved, including Wyman knowing that Kenny might be putting ICM pressure on him.
I mean, that said, this play should work.
It should work.
I mean, it's supposed to work. Now, the story is not fantastic. Like we're saying, the value range shrinks up. I do think, by the way, Kenny is betting a lot of his 2-pair combos, certainly top 2, probably some of the other ones too, but there aren't that many.
Yeah.
And maybe bottom 2 he's checking back. That's close. But would he, let's say you had a set and you were Tyler Kenny here in this spot. Would you really go for the gusto, or would you bet an amount that is more callable? Let's remember, there's a 37 blind stack right there. If you move in and fold the guy out, cool. But if you move in and you've got a big hand that you want to get called, then he's going to call and only have 10 blinds left. You would expect Wyman's going to be pretty tight here on the river, which is, of course, why he moves in.
Right. The question
but the story doesn't really fit.
The question is, does it matter, though?
I don't know that I mean, maybe it does, but it shouldn't matter, right? This is supposed to work because the pressure is so great.
Yeah, the thing is, if Kenny bets $5 million, then Wyman's going to have plenty left if he calls and is wrong, right? So Kenny doesn't want to allow Wyman to have that situation. And I know that might be transparent, but it doesn't matter when so much money's on the line. People are affected by this.
I mean, not Daniel Wyman, though.
I
Daniel
guess
Wyman
not.
is saying, he's drawing a line in the sand, and he's saying, you cross this, buddy, I'm going to put the chips in, and I don't care. I just have a 5. It's enough.
All right, so
Wow.
let's get to the really cool part of this hand.
Yes.
All right, because usually when we're talking about ICM, we're talking about how you might be more conservative in spots because there's a big money jump coming, like this spot where Wyman you would expect to be more conservative because there's a 200K jump here, and he's very likely to go out in third if he calls and loses this hand, right?
Right.
So that's a problem. That's $200,000 you lost. But there is a converse to that in this particular situation, it might be more profitable to call with your 50-50 spots than not. And there's a really cool reason. What is it, Jonathan?
Well, the jump between third and second is 200,000, but the jump between second and first is like 370,000. And if Wyman calls and wins here on the river, he's going to have over 200 blinds.
like 240 blinds.
Some less than that, but whatever. But a lot of blinds, right? And the only other guy left, the dude in the small blind there, is going to have 36 blinds or so. And Wyman is a very good player. Wyman is, well, we think better than 80% to win this tournament at that point.
So just give him 80%.
Give him 80% of that $370,000 jump. That's a lot more than the $200K he stands to win if he makes this fold. By the way, if you make this fold, you don't necessarily lock up second place anyway. As Wyman, you have like 70 blinds, and the next guy has 37 blinds. It's not like you're guaranteed that 200K.
You make this call, and you're right. You knock out probably the most dangerous player at the table besides yourself.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. You go into heads up with a huge chip lead, give yourself 80% chance to win. The math actually adds up to being plus EV in a 50-50 spot in an ICM spot to call, which is never the case in an ICM spot.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, there's one other thing in play, although that to me is huge and important. It was really cool to figure that out, by the way, which we did in the podcast. This is Tyler Kenny, who not only has lots of results, is sort of a, one of your crushers. He's in one of the GPL leagues and stuff like that, on one of the teams. He's also Bryn Kenny's little brother.
Yeah, so you want to smash that guy.
Well, I don't mean that. I mean, Bryn Kenny, though, is one of the best players in the world. Tyler Kenny's very good, too. This is a guy who's capable, A, of triple barrel bluffing, and triple barrel bluffing in this spot. There are lots of players who would give up after the turn call just because it's not worth it and they still have chips. Tyler Kenny is a guy who is capable of this. That makes this call a lot easier, too.
Now, I wonder if Wyman actually figured out this ICM thing on the spot. It's
I
hard
don't
to imagine.
know.
It's hard to imagine that he would. Maybe he just didn't think the story added up.
Yeah.
In the end, though, he makes this what looks like an incredible call, and I think it is an incredible call.
It's incredible.
And, I mean, I can't believe this. Tyler Kenny started the hand with 108 blinds, and now he's gone. Now we're heads up, and how happy is 37 blind guy over here? He just made 200K.
200K with a shot at all the rest of it,
Yeah,
it's
like a
pretty good.
20% shot by our margins, but
whatever.
That's pretty good.
It was a lot better than it was, a hand before with two guys with 100 blind stacks, right?
And
he made $200,000. I want to be that guy.
That's a pretty cool spot.
I'll be that guy.
Yeah.
It's a great spot.
I'll be that guy.
Okay, I'll be the other guy. Okay, that's one of my favorite hands of all time that we've
It's
ever
pretty
done.
cool.
That is so outrageous. I mean, I think both these guys play the hand awesomely and what you're supposed to do, and you just almost never see a game of chicken at this level at this time. Props to both you guys. What do you guys think about these decisions? Should Tyler Kenny be giving up on the river, or maybe earlier? Should Daniel Wyman be making this call? Even though we know it worked out and he had the best hand, is this actually the right move in your opinion? Let us know in the comments. We're looking forward to seeing what you have to say.
Now, we've actually seen a similar ICM situation before on the breakdown, and it's one of the most famous hands of all time.
Yeah.
It's called Tough Spot. We did it about 9 years ago, so forgive us if it looks a little janky.
Oh, quite janky,
Yeah.
but whatever. It's fine.
It's Paul Wasika in the Jamie Gold year. He has a very weird three-way decision with huge money jumps involved. It's quite similar to this hand, in fact. Check it out by clicking right up here.
Instead of being hundreds of thousands of dollars, though, we're talking millions upon millions of dollar jumps. It is maybe one of the most interesting ICM spots of all time.
It might be.
So, yeah, definitely check that out and weigh in on that one as well. If you want to know how we came to all our thoughts on, especially that cool EV plus thing with the ICM at the end, that it's actually better to call because it's worth more money to you because you win the tournament so much more often, you got to check out our podcast, The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys. It's where we spent a good 45, 50 minutes, something like that, delving into all of this, figuring it all out so we could talk to you about it on this video.
And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel.